Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a photography at home tutorial, maybe give some people some ideas as to how you can do some photography whilst at home in lockdown, as well as how you could potentially change your direction in order to still be getting work with clients even whilst we're in the middle of a pandemic. So let's jump in. I am trying something a little bit different today. You'll have to bear with me as to whether or not this works flawlessly. It might not. So what we're going to do first off is, whilst we're up here in my kind of office studio area, is we're going to take a look at some very simple, plain, basic product photos. Now what I'm going to take pictures of are going to be this Olympus camera, and I'm also going to take a picture of this Stormtrooper AILCam. Now a couple of things that I've already got, but you might have something similar laying around the house, is just some A3 card or A2 card. I actually think it's A2. You don't necessarily need this. All you need is some kind of backdrop, whether or not you want to light that backdrop with a certain color, or you want to have a plain backdrop so that you can then, for instance, select subject this out of the background using Photoshop and add any color background you want. That's up to you, but for the purposes of this video, I am going to be using a colored backdrop to create that seamless colored effect. So I'm going to move some stuff around, and then yeah, I guess from there we'll get cracking. What I've got here is just a normal light stand, which you can pick up from Amazon. It doesn't have to be anything ridiculously expensive or fancy. This is just a newer one, so it's not a C-stand or anything like that. And this light stand itself has got a simple kind of clip on the top. Again, bought this off of Amazon. You can get, I think, 4 for about £12 if I remember rightly. So here's my big roll of various coloured cards, from things like gunmetal grey to moss green. I've got a nice shiny gold and silver. I've got blue and green, which are really important if you want to be doing some of the green screen stuff, and I've got black as well. I actually really like the black. I will probably, yeah, we'll go for the black. So we're going to do the camera first, and we'll go for black as our first colour. Now it's very important with these rolls to not crease them up. So I keep them, I say rolls, these pieces of paper, is to not crease them up. So I always keep them rolled, and I use a couple of these clips, again, maybe like a £5 for like 10 of these on Amazon. These are really handy, especially for this, and I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, so I think this is probably going to be too high, but the principle is there. So you have your stand, you have your paper, okay, and you very simply clamp this down. Again, I am by no means a professional at doing this. However, I have done a fair few of these and they look pretty good. So we're going to carry on cracking on with this. Now you can do a couple of things here. Either you can prop this up so it kind of sits in the middle, or you can sit this down on like a cube or something just here, or you can just leave it like that, which is what I'm going to do for the purpose of this video, just to kind of give you a proof of concept. I'm now going to come all the way around the back of the camera, and I'm now here. So I am using the Sony A7C. I've done a few videos on this in the last few months. So going to increase aperture to f9 because we want more of this subject in focus. And we're also going to increase the ISO to compensate for that. And we're also going to drop our shutter speed. Okay, and I think we're starting to get somewhere. Okay, so now if you are taking a photo of something like this camera and you want all of the details in focus, then what you want to do is you'll probably want to use a tripod. You probably want to use a longer exposure because you want to set your f to like 22 probably. That's where it kind of sits, or at least in my opinion, that's roughly where it's been sitting for me. I've done a couple of photos of this thing in the past, so I roughly know that's about right. Right, I'm now going to move this because this is definitely in the way. So I'm currently using this Godox SL60W to light this kind of area, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly use it just to give some top-down lighting on this camera, just so you can, and then take the photo just so you can see what this top-down lighting looks like. You don't have to top-down like this. You can, for instance, have a light here, lighting front on, which will illuminate all of this and give a nice flat light, but I'm going to go top down, so I'm going to do that real quick. Alright, so I've now taken the photo. I'll flash it up on the screen and show you exactly what it looks like, but as you can see, it's a relatively, like, I guess, high key photo. you've got a nice smooth backdrop. So now we're going to change up the card. We're going to use a different color because I think that Stormtrooper beer could do with a bit of a splash of color. So we'll put the black to the side, and I'm going to grab my can and see what colours we've got. I don't actually think I have any red because it's not usually in my colour palette. So I think what we'll do is we'll actually use a grey. So what I'm doing is I'm just having a look at the colours and how they match up. I think that silver looks really nice. Okay, same principle again. So we're going to get that curve nice. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to grab some newer LED panels, because you don't need something like this giant softbox in order to do this. I'm going to show you a real simple trick with the LED panel and a white piece of foam core. You can use paper, you can use anything white and achieve the exact same effect. Okay, so these newer LEDs are something that I've used for a while and I actually really like them. So we're all good. Okay, so as you can see, this is still a fairly powerful light. These are the pieces of foam core. As you can see, I can use this to bounce light back at that table, like so. So if you went to, say, Wilko and you picked up like a real simple can light that was attached to a plug and you clamped it onto some makeshift stand, like you can do so much with so little when it comes to photography, providing that you've got, you know, some kind of diffusion or bounce to sort that light out so it's not so harsh, as well as some kind of background and a camera. You can use your phone. At the end of the day, like, the possibilities are basically endless when it comes to lighting, and you just kind of need to be a little bit creative about how you do it. Before I had this Godox SL60, this was the exact kind of thing I was doing in order to bounce light onto my subjects. And, you know, I used a shower curtain, I've used a can light filled with LEDs stuck behind a piece of shower curtain as like a softbox. You know, you can get real creative with this kind of thing, but we're going to keep on going with this single piece of foam core. And I need something to prop it on. Didn't think about this bit. So we'll go for like a slightly moodier photo with the Stormtrooper. Okay. Now what I'm noticing is there is a bit of a hot spot on this right hand side, and that is purely because of the kind of light that we are using here. Light it this way and really like bounce that light. You probably can't see much now, but I quite like that highlight. Looks pretty good. So I quite like a bit of a moody vibe sometimes, and what we're going to do is grab that piece of foam core and we're just going to bounce some of this light back. That actually looks pretty good. I definitely prefer that one to the original. So there you go, there's another way that you can do it. You can use a slightly lower intensity on this, obviously adjust your camera settings accordingly, and use the foam core to bounce light. You know, you can use black foam core to cut light as well, which is also an extremely useful tool, especially if you want to kind of get like a mood on this side. You'd grab like a black piece of card and you could cut all that light out off that side, or we could use a black piece of foam core, stick it in front of this, and you'd get a nice hard line. Right, so now we're going to go take some more stylized photos downstairs. Okay, so as you can see, we've moved downstairs. What we're going to do is we're going to do some flat lay stuff, we're going to do some coffee, and we're also going to do some stuff with the camera. I'll show you roughly how to like add some texture into the image, and also kind of just the lighting process that I use whenever I'm taking a photo like this. So let's jump in. Okay, so one of the first things that you'll want to do is you want to make sure that your table is clean, because for some reason, even when you get frustrated with your camera for like missing focus or missing a shot or whatever, it loves to pick up all of the tiny little specks of dirt on the surface when you're doing product photography, and I'm just assuming that's because of the lighting. This table I absolutely love because it is just kind of naturally beat up, like it's naturally weathered. You've got dips, you've got like wax stains, you've got cuts, like all of this that's gathered, it's patinaed well. We're going to be using this part of the table here, which is why I've lit it. So obviously we've got a bit of light coming from that window. Now, first thing we're going to do is, I know I'm not very well lit, but first thing we're going to do is the camera. So I'm going to create a flat lay. You're going to be able to see it from here, but you'll see the picture that I create and I'll talk you through exactly what I'm doing. So when you're doing product photography, you don't want to kind of just dump the product in there and then some random textury stuff, it doesn't really make much sense. What you're aiming for is to tell the story of the product that you are photographing, especially obviously when you're doing this for like clients and stuff. So, you know, this is a film camera. So I've got an old box of film that I've had laying around for the best part of probably most of my life, I think. I used to kind of play with older cameras around my nan's house when I was younger, and I always remember this being on one of the shelves with the cameras and stuff. And then when my nan passed away, I got all of that stuff obviously being into cameras, and that was in there. So that has actually come in quite handy. I'm just cleaning this because I realised after I took that last photo that this thing is filthy. So now that is cleaned up a bit, we got a bit of that dirt off there. I like to obviously incorporate my own style into this, and my style tends to be quite moody. I like the natural vibes, so like I say, I've got the wood here. I like to include some plants, so I'm going to grab a couple of plants and pop these in the shot, and then I'm going to take a test photo and we can have a look at it. Okay, so that photo that I just took, it's okay, it's not anywhere near where I want it to be. I'll just talk you through it. So what I can see is the items are too far apart. When you're actually laying this stuff down on the table, it looks closer than it is, but when you get to about here and you use 70mm like I do, you'll actually realize that you can probably pack this stuff a little bit closer together. So what I'm gonna do is, because that plant seems to really fill most of that spot, is I'm going to actually just fill the rest of the frame with the lenses, and we'll go from there. So now in my opinion that is much better. I might even go a bit closer so that, boom, pretty happy with that one. So as you can see, we've used some of the items to tell the story. We've used a bit of texture with the plants, a bit of depth by adding that height by using the plants. Now if you really wanted to, you could probably add something under this to make the lenses a little more out of focus in the background, so it's focusing in front of them. Then you've got out of focus in the foreground, out of focus in the background, the texture of the table, and you've also got the texture of the camera, which looks pretty cool. So now we're going to move on to the coffee stuff. So I'm going to move this stuff out of the way, and I'll see you in a sec. Alright, so I've now got the coffee bits and bobs that I want to create this photo out of. So I have a I have a pour over carafe, I guess you could call it, of coffee. I've got a coffee cup, I've got a pour over jug, gooseneck jug, I've got my bag of coffee, and I have got one extra ingredient, which I will show you in a second, which will kind of add to that texture. Now, most of this stuff is pretty round, so adding in some extra kind of shapes will really help this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the coffee in to here, but I'm going to leave a bit in the bottom of this so that we have it. Now, the thing that's going to be at the center is probably going to be this, because it looks pretty cool. We're going to have this probably laid down on its back, like so. In fact, no, we're not. I'll tell you what we're going to do is I'm going to lay that down flat like so. I'm just wondering how much glare I'm going to get from that. No, it should be okay. We're going to add that in the middle. We're going to add that down there. We might need to bring these a little bit closer together. So we have something that looks a little like that, and then my favorite little compositional tool, the plant, goes there. So we're gonna quick little check on this as a snap, focus on the cork of this here, take the picture. Okay, so what I can see is from this, I can see that yes, it does fill it in pretty well. However, what I will say is the gooseneck needs to be turned around so you can see the end of the gooseneck. These beans need to be straightened up. This coffee cup needs to come out a little bit. We need a little more plant in there. So what I'm going to do is probably add that plant in. So I will hold my camera over the top until I get what I think is a nice bit of composition there. I personally like that. I think that looks really nice. However, so I like that and I think that looks really nice. However, there is something that in my opinion will escalate any photo of coffee to the next level, and that is by using beans or grounds or something to add even more texture to your photo. It's one thing obviously having a clear see-through container like this with the beans in. I always think beans look great in any photo with any light on them whatsoever. But, oh my god, I can't get into it. This pack is basically, I bought a bag of coffee, I didn't like it, and instead of throwing the coffee away, I kept it for photography. So what I do is, if ever that happens again, this is what I do with them. I keep on topping up my, I guess, collection of coffee, and I will add in some beans here, there, and everywhere. Kind of just like that, really. Adding them in, having a look over the top, seeing how it looks. I mean, I probably don't really need any at the bottom because this isn't really in shot. I might also turn that so we're not using too many of the deaded leaves. Have a look at that. Boom. Now that right there is what I am talking about. There we go. And that for me is pretty much how I would shoot coffee. And if you don't already, get yourself a bag of beans that you use for photography, mark them off and whatnot. Okay, so that does do it for this video. I hope you found this video helpful and gave you some ideas of what you can shoot around the house. Like, you know, go and pick up some cheap foam core from somewhere like Hobbycraft or Homebase or B&Q. Like, those places are still open. You can pick up that kind of stuff there, or order it off the internet. I personally got all of my card from Hobbycraft, all the foam core from Hobbycraft. Obviously I got the lights from Amazon, but like I say, you can use LEDs. You don't have to have like a big softbox like this, or even an LED panel like the newer ones that I was using. You could literally use a standard light bulb, a standard LED light bulb. As long as you set your white balance correctly, you are perfectly able to use everyday accessible items such as those. Now obviously I was using the Sony a7C, but like I said, you can use your phone, you can use a cheaper camera, a more expensive camera, just anything that kind of gets you creating, really. Like, just because we're in lockdown doesn't mean that you can't take advantage of the extra time that you might have to be able to focus on your craft and honing some of your skills. I, for instance, am taking the time to learn how to edit better, taking the time to kind of develop these videos and also improve my product photography, which is why I've made this video, because I figured there are probably other people out there as well who want to learn how to do things slightly better and may appreciate a different perspective. That is it for this video. If you've got any questions, follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, leave a comment down below. Just reach out and we can chat about gear, we can chat about lighting, we can chat about places to buy things from in the UK, because I find that's often one of the resources that lacks on the internet, is like UK specific places to buy things. So yeah, feel free to drop me a message. You know, if you've got any advice on where to buy things, I'd also like to hear from you. But that is it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, like the bell to stay up to date for whenever I release a new video. And until the next one, see ya.